feel like you hear it all the time that it's like running is 95% mental or whatever. Fuck me. Marathon training is 100% mental. That's just like wrapping your head around the fact of like a 2-hour 45 long run, and like the first week of your taper is going to be a 100-mile week. It's like 100-mile weeks for like, it's like peak mileage for me not too long ago.
What's going on, Beer Mile Nation? Or perhaps we should change that to be Beer Mile Worldwide, because today we have international guest Pat Tiernan back on the pod. I mean, I guess he does live in the U.S. And train in the U.S. currently, but he is an Aussie and represent in Australia. But he is back on the pod shortly after he was on last time. I think we just had him on, it was early August, episode 93. And right after that episode that we recorded with him, he announced, well, rather, Chicago Marathon announced the elite field, and Pat Tiernan is part of that elite field. He's making his debut marathon at the Chicago Marathon this weekend, and we couldn't be more pumped to see what he can do over the 26.2 mile distance. Pat, as always, is a fun dude to talk to. It's great to see his perspective on his shift to marathon training and what his goals are for this weekend. I think he takes a very healthy perspective on his approach to his debut marathon here, not putting too much pressure on the time and really just wanting to feel it out, make sure he has a good race, a good experience, really feels good in the moment so that he doesn't completely hate the marathon leaving this weekend and never want to do it again. So we'll see. We're excited to see where he ends up and whether, this is an indication on what he decides to do for this upcoming World Champs as well as the 2024 Olympics. Maybe he's a marathon guy. Maybe that's his true specialty. Obviously, he's fast on the track in the 10K, multiple-time Olympian, but I don't know, maybe he can be an Olympian at the marathon as well. So we'll wait and see. But until this Sunday, enjoy this interview, this discussion with Pat Tiernan. Speaking of the marathon and grinding away on training, if you're a runner out there, you know that recovery is a very, very important part of training, perhaps the most important part of training. And you know what really doesn't help recovery? Alcohol. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. And unfortunately, alcohol is one of those things that it really does not help your running performance, your athletic performance, your job performance, really any sort of performance. But thankfully, with Athletic Brewing's NA craft beers, you can enjoy all the great beer taste without compromise, without the hangover. And our listeners get 20% off their entire order and free shipping right to their door at athleticbrewing.com when you use our code BeerMile20. That's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com. Athletic has won over 6 international brewing awards, and they put out over 50 NA beers every year, including IPAs and Goldens and Stouts, etc. So you can be sure there's no compromise on taste. And if you're like me and you love that post-run shower beer, or you even love a beer during lunch on a work day, with Athletic Brewing, you can enjoy it guilt-free anytime. We've had the CEO of Athletic Brewing on, Bill Schufelt. Go back to episode 55 if you want to listen to that. We've also been part of both of Athletic Brewing's NA Beer Mile events that they put on to date. They're big fans of the Beer Mile. We're big fans of Athletic Brewing. And if that weren't reason enough, they are also charitable and have donated over $2.5 million to restoring outdoor spaces around the globe. So you're not going to go wrong. Head over to athleticbrewing.com. You'll find an NA craft beer for you. They'll ship it right to your door, and you can use our code BeerMile20. That's all one word, BeerMile20, for 20% off and free shipping. This episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is #1 in men's grooming and hygiene and confidence. I exclusively use Manscaped products for all of my trimming needs, my body wash, my cologne, my deodorant, really everything across the board, because they have the best products out there to make you smell good, feel good, give you that confidence that you need to carry on throughout the day. And my personal favorite, the boxers. I talk about these all the time. These boxers, they are chafe-free. I've worn them for a marathon, odor-resistant, and I'm going to be rocking these bad boys in my next marathon at the Chicago Marathon under my half tights. I will live and die by the Manscaped boxers. So head over to manscaped.com and use our code BeerMile, all one word, BeerMile, for 20% off your order and free shipping.
You're listening to the Beer Mile Podcast.
We're doing a little some mini interviews series with some of the folks around in Chicago. And so definitely wanted to have you on, seeing as it's your debut marathon, and the people loved your episode that when you were on a few episodes back with us. So yeah, figured we had to get you back on and get a little update on how things are going, because I'm pretty sure you announced right after you came on the podcast last time, you announced that you were doing Chicago, or Chicago put out the elite field like a couple of weeks after that. So we were just kind of excited / shocked to see your name on the list. So maybe we start there. Like what's the what was the decision behind, jumping into the Chicago Marathon and going for it with the debut this fall?
Yeah, so it had kind of been something we talked about for a while. I think at the start of this year, we talked about the concept of doing either Chicago or New York. But it just depended on timing, depended on how the season went as far as if I ran world champs or not. And so as soon as I got this calf injury in March that kind of put me out from world champs. And so as soon as we got that, we said, all right, why don't we just turn focus to Chicago and really try and get up to that. I didn't realize you weren't allowed to really tell people you were running it until they released fields. So I feel like I told a few people back in like May, and then I told someone and they were like, oh, you can't say that yet. I was like, oh shit. So I'd known it for a while, but yeah, so we've been preparing for that probably since, honestly, I'd say probably since that 5K I ran in Portland, which was early June, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been doing it was sort of a slow intro to the build up, and then the last sort of 7 to 8 weeks have been good solid marathon build up. So ever since Bix really turned the corner.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, did he just crush Bix? And now all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I'll hop in that Chicago Marathon and try my luck.
No, we were doing the mileage for the marathon. We probably started the high mileage about a month or so before Bix, but we were still doing kind of, a speed session a week leading up to that. And then once we finished Bix, and we were just trying to pure marathon work. But yeah, so that it's been exciting. I feel like it's something a lot of people have wanted me to do for a long time, but I've just never really been mentally ready to run 26 miles. But I think watching New York Marathon last November, watching that at home, that was the first time where I saw it, and I was like, all right, that's something I'd actually be really excited to do. So, it's something that's been a long time coming, but I think I've timed it right in the sense that this is mentally the first time I've been ready to run the full way.
How is the adjustment to the training, or at least the differences in training, Ben?
It's been interesting. I feel like you hear it all the time that it's like running is 95% mental or whatever. Fuck me. Marathon training is 100% mental. That's just like wrapping your head around the fact of like a 2-hour 45 long run and stuff like that. And like your tape, like the first week of your tape is going to be 100-mile week. It's like 100-mile weeks for like, it's like peak mileage for me not too long ago. So it's just things like that like, you just got to work your way through it. You figure out that you go through waves of feeling bad and feeling good. And like, if you're feeling good 6 miles into a race now, you kind of take it with a grain of salt and just kind of wait for the next bad phase to come. But it's, it's been interesting. I feel like I've done marathon, like sessions that have been kind of a marathon mindset before, but I've never backed them up with the mileage and the long runs to go with it. So having that, I think, is just like, you just get used to your legs being tired. It's like getting out for like a 45-minute double in the evening is like that's hard to do, even though it's slow and not hard aerobically. It's just like you don't want to do 45 minutes in the afternoon. It's a lot of track work, which I didn't realize, but it's like long track work. So, yeah, I think it's just been, wrapping your head around the fact that you're not going to go lactic in sessions, but you're just going to be doing it for a long time and like sustaining certain paces and stuff like that. So, so now I think it's just like this next week or so in the lead up to it is now just like, all right, convincing yourself that you can do what you've been doing in the training for the entire race. So, which like, it's like anything. I mean, when you're training for a 10K, you never do a 10K time trial. If you're training for a 5K, you never do a 5K time trial. Like,
right.
You don't actually do what you're going to do in training. So it's just a little daunting to think of it for 2 and a bit hours. But no, it's definitely something that I feel like I'm ready for. I feel like we've put a lot of work into it now, and now it's just a matter of making sure the body's ready and feeling good come next Sunday.
I think perhaps even more impressive is that you dropped your wedding right in the peak of the training cycle as well. So how was that? Did you get like a few days downtime kind of around the wedding, or were you still like day of the wedding getting up and grinding out a bunch of miles,
18 miles
before getting married? Yeah.
We kind of used the wedding week as like almost a put-in injury week, I guess, kind of thing. Yeah. So like if you were a little banged up, treat it like that. So like I'd say like the Monday through Thursday, I kind of treat it as if I was doing like a full mileage week. And then the Friday through Monday or whatever was like, imagine you just like, I don't know, had like a light sprain to your ankle or something like that, and treat it like you would there. So like, I think I did like a couple of easy runs, but also had like a day or two off sort of thing. Like I didn't run the day of my wedding. The day we like drove or traveled back to Eugene afterwards, like I didn't run that day. So it was just like, we just built it in. And that was something we'd like planned from a long way out, was like, this week is going to be a very down week. But it actually worked out really well. I came out of it, and the first session after the wedding, I think was the Wednesday or Thursday afterwards, and like crushed it. So it was just like, all right, like you're back into it. You kind of just get back into the grind. We're in Mammoth Lakes at the moment, but came up here like a week afterwards and just kind of got back into it. But I think honestly it was nice because like, and this is, a lot of credit to Alistair and Amy for having, trusted me to be able to do this, but just like having those few days off around the wedding kind of allowed me to enjoy that day, but also just like, I felt like I got a little refresher from the 8 to 10 weeks that we'd already done just grinding out. So then when I came off the wedding, I was like, all right, I'm ready to fucking hit it hard again for like 5 weeks into this marathon. So, it was nice. I don't know whether I'll be able to get away with planning a wedding or a party like 5 weeks out from every marathon I do from here on out. But,
fingers crossed it's just the one,
If it goes, the one wedding for me. I'll tell mate. I'll tell my mates they got to have a wedding 5 weeks out. I'll be like, we got to structure. So you're going to have to tell your bride to be. We got to structure this 5 weeks out from the Olympic marathon. But hey, if it works, it's a formula I would be happy to keep going, but we'll see how we go.
I mean, I could totally see it working well, because that's like so many people just grinding that marathon cycle, and you just overcook yourself, or you're because you're riding the line the whole time. And so you might just tip it over the edge and get injured or whatever. So you're just kind of preventive, from all of that occurring. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, there could be something to that. Have a little, have weddings or some vacation or guys trips or whatever, 5 weeks out. It might be something to that. We'll see. If you pop this one off, you're going to have to work that into the training plan.
I feel like guys trips, maybe not so much.
Well, that's true.
I feel like those are synonymous with benders.
Yeah, that's true. Those take a week or two to recover from. That's true.
Yeah, that's like worse than marathon training. But no, it was, I did actually find I got from like the stress of like the week of the wedding, like making sure everything was okay, and the combination of like the marathon training leading up to it, like I did actually get a little bit run down on like probably the Friday and Saturday, which was kind of nice, just like forced you into taking a couple of days to get that right. But yeah, so I don't know, I've noted it down. It's in the training diary. So we'll, if we're looking back on, hopefully we're looking back on a successful build up and can time that again.
Speaking of which, like looking at that marathon itself, coming off of what sounds like a pretty successful training block, how are you kind of structuring your goals for the race?
Do you want 20% off and free shipping right to your door on award-winning brews? Use our code BeerMile20, that's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com to get 20% off your entire order today. With Athletic Brewing's non-alcoholic craft beers, you can drink guilt-free without the hangover. Give it a try. BeerMile20, all one word, BeerMile20 at athleticbrewing.com for 20% off. Cheers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like a lot of people have asked me, like, what's the time you want to run? Which that's the thing with the marathon. Like, everybody wants to run a time, but it's like, I don't know. It's hard to figure out exactly. I mean, I'll probably sit down with Alistair this week and figure out what my goal through probably 18 or 20 miles would be. But yeah, it's hard to know like exactly where you want to run. I think in an ideal world, I would get if I ran the World Champs qualifier, which is that's 209.40, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If I got under that, I'd definitely walk away like pretty happy. But yeah, I think at the same time, it's just like the biggest thing is walking away from your first one with a positive experience from it. I feel like you see a lot of people do their first one and either not finish or have this ridiculous positive split or things like that. And I feel like it's important especially if it's an event that I want to look to do in Paris and do well. I think it's important for me to be able to walk away from this being like, all right, it's a lot of things for me to improve on, but we actually did this pretty well and a lot of this build up was successful sort of thing. So, so I think, I'd be happy with sub 210. But, I think it's also one of those things where I'm not going to go in being like sub 210 is my goal. It's just like going in, doing whatever we plan to, like executing for that first half or 2/3 of the race. That's kind of going to be the goal. And then, hopefully being able to race a little bit over the last sort of 10K of the event would be great.
I would assume there will be quite a large group of guys. I mean, there's a lot of PRs going into this race that are like 210, 211. So I'm sure that you'll have a big pack kind of around that pace to gear off of a little bit. Is there anyone in particular in the race that you're like, looking at as if I just run with them, I know that they're going to run about what I want to run, or, specific group of people that you're trying to pack up with or compete against, or like, I need to beat that guy, like anything like that, or just kind of play it by ear in the race and see what pack you kind of fit into?
I feel like it's hard. Like I'd love to see myself running with Conor Mance, but that bloke's fucking nuts when he runs. Like he just gets after it, doesn't he? I got so much respect for him. I mean, I feel like I've watched Conor. He's a good bloke. I've had plenty of conversations with him and cooled down with him and stuff like that. But I feel like as soon as the gun goes off, that guy looks like he's working at 110% of his capacity. And then he gets to the finish and he's still working at 110% of his capacity in closing. So I don't know. I mean, he was someone who I saw his name come up and I was like, that'd be interesting to like see if I could gauge off of him. But he's the sort of guy who like, you just don't know what sort of shape he's going to be in when he comes into it. I mean, someone told me, he said the other day that if he had a decent day, he'd be running sub 208. I was like, fuck me, if I had a phenomenal day, I'd be running sub 209, sub 208. So he's obviously confident going in, so that's good. But no, I think, I mean, my training partner John Dressel, he's in good shape, and I think we'll probably have probably a similar plan through halfway and stuff like that. So we could potentially be feeding off each other, which would be nice. But to be completely honest with you, I don't really know too many of the guys in the field. I feel like it's, you can ask around and see what people's goals are and stuff like that. But I feel like as soon as the gun goes off, some people will drop off I just think with the marathon, so many things can change that you kind of have to learn to be in control of yourself and know your body pretty well for that first half of it. So, Yeah, so it'd be ideal to be able to run with a few people, but if not, I think unfortunately it'll be the first race I wear my watch in, which is, to me, feels like I'm going against
breaking the rules.
Going against every bone in my body to do that. But I think it's something that I just have to do in order to have, like I said, have that kind of positive experience, a little bit of control to move forward. Yeah. So, but yes, so no, it'll be interesting. Watch me say all of this and then go out at 4:45 pace and just
here's a little
completely die. But
here's a little inside baseball. We actually did just talk to Connor, and he said that he's going to wait and see what his coach says, but he said he wouldn't be surprised if he ends up trying to go out around 63 for the first half. So just so you know, you might not want to stick with him if that's what he's trying to do.
Connor, man.
Yeah, he said he wants that sub 208, and he wouldn't be surprised if Coach Eyestone ends up telling him to even go for way faster than that and go out in 63. And I was like, holy moly, debut, just go out at 63 and just hang on for dear life.
Just let it rip, man.
It's a let it rip.
Sub 208. He's going for the Kipchoge approach, going out. What did he go out in the other day?
59.50s. Yeah, insane.
God. That was nuts. I saw that the other day, and I was just thinking, I was like, that's insane. I was telling Angel, I was like, my goal for next year should be to like make all of my PBs quicker than what like double the distance world record is or whatever. Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, fuck, he's going through a minute quicker than my half PB. I was like, God, if I want to compete with that, I've got to get at least the half time down. But yeah, no, that's, I mean, like I said, I think Connor's a phenomenal athlete. Like, I do think if there's someone who's capable of debuting very quick, it's him. But I think he's also someone who, if he does go out in 63 and he does fade, I don't think it's going to be a massive fade. I still think that sub 208 will be on the cards for him if he can do that. So, so no, I'm excited to see what he does. Obviously, I would love to see what he does from the finish line, but we'll see. but I'm sure he's going to have a good day, and honestly, it's just exciting. I feel like there's a lot of good athletes who are making their debut in Chicago, and it'll be very interesting to see, because this is kind of the start of the build up to, especially in the US, like the Olympic trials in 2024. So you're going to start to get a lot of names who are getting on the radar and who will start putting their hand up for selection. So this is a very exciting fall for not only US marathoning, but a lot of countries who are having athletes make their debut as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Paris. So do you see yourself back on the track next season, or are you all in on marathon regardless of the outcome for Chicago?
It's interesting. I feel like if Chicago goes really well and I do really enjoy it, then I think I could see myself trying to make the full transition. But I do think one of the things that if you want to compete in the marathon at a championship is you do have to keep that track element, like that 10K speed sort of thing. So, I could definitely see myself still doing 10Ks and 5Ks on the track early in the year, similar to this year, and then doing a fall marathon or, a world champs or something like that, just to kind of get a better idea. I've had my fair share of championship races in the 10K. Absolutely none of them have gone well, but I now know a lot about those races. So I feel like I've got a good idea of how those races play out. And so now it's kind of a matter of figuring out how the championship marathon plays out. And, ultimately getting to a position where we get to November of 2023 and can say, all right, this is the event that we're going to target for July of 2024.
Yeah. What is the Australia marathon debut record. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what the debut record is. I guarantee you it's probably from the 80s or 90s, maybe. I think we had a very successful group of marathoners through that period. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the most recent one. Jack Rayner ran 2:11 in London, but I don't know if that was. I think that was his debut. That was in 2019, I believe, but I'm not sure if that's the debut record. But yeah, I know there's a bunch of sort of 2:08, 2:09 results from the 90s and 80s, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so one of those was probably a debut.
It says Jeff Hunt in Japan of 2010 set the Australian debut record at 2:11.
2:11.
Jeff Hunt. Okay. There you go. Jack must have just been off that. 2:11.
Yeah.
All right.
2:11 flat. 2:11 flat on the dot. So anything 2:10, that's what you need.
Well, that's all right. If I go out with Connor, then I've just got to run 60, 67, 50 something.
Then you can jog. You can jog the rest of the way. Oh gosh.
God, that would be a very hard 67. 2:11. Okay, I think that's reasonable. That's definitely something that's within reach. Yeah. But I know the marathon record has stood for like 35, 36 years now in Australia. Mm-hmm. He also ran it.
It's like low. It's like 2:02 or something like that. It's very quick, isn't it?
The Australian one's 2:07.50.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about it is that was run in Boston in like 1980 something. 1980s, yeah. Which, like, shoes in 1980 on a Boston marathon course.
Yeah.
I'm like, how?
Yeah, your quads would be so beat up, just destroyed.
Like, oh my God. I have so much respect for those guys because, like, God, one, that's a really quick time, but two, that course I've just heard is brutal. So,
yeah.
So I feel like that's a scenario where if you're breaking the Australian record in Chicago, in order to feel good about it, you have to break it by like over a minute.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a tough call to make, like calling the guy who set the record, calling Rob after you ran 2:07.50 and being like, yeah, I broke your record by 1 second. I did it in Chicago.
Yeah,
I did it in Chicago with carbon plated shoes, but
and the pacer and
the pacer. I didn't win, but you know. So yeah, I feel like it's a record where you've got to go a fair way under it in order for it to be a respectable. Yeah, respectable broken record, but yeah. So we'll see. I feel like that's something that could be on the cards down the road. But yeah, I think for this first one, yeah, like I said, sub 2:10 I'd be pretty happy with that result.
Yeah. So what's the postseason look like for you, especially assuming that you have a great marathon debut, love the experience. I know you got a honeymoon coming up as well, but yeah, what does this postseason look like for you? What are your plans? Do you want the sickest shades in the game at an affordable price? Look no further than Knockaround Sunglasses, knockaround.com. Use our code BeerMilePod. That's all one word, BeerMilePod, for 20% off your entire order. These babies are super sick. I'm wearing the Mary Janes right now if you're watching on the video version. They look good running, look good casual, very durable, and like I said, at an affordable price. Really the best all-around sunglasses out there. Head on over to knockaround.com and use our code BeerMilePod, all one word, for 20% off.
Yeah, so we actually just planned a week in Hawaii after the marathon, which would be great. So we're going to go actually one of Angel's bridesmaids, Emily Lapari, just moved out to Hawaii. So we're going to spend a couple of days with her and then do our own thing on Maui, which will be fun. And then we are officially moving across to North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just got an apartment approved there, which is great. But yes, I'll be driving across the country with our dog during my break. So it'll be a fun-filled break. But no, it'll be good. And then I think, probably I'm going to take probably 2 to 3 weeks off, just to sort of reset and whatnot, and then get back into running probably early November, with probably intentions of opening up the season in Australia at the Australian cross country trial for World Cross in February.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget that, seasons are flip-flopped as well. So spending some time in Australia when it's summertime is going to be nice as well.
Yeah. So I think we'll kind of try and ease our way back into it, but it's exciting. I feel like this World Cross Country has been something that's meant to have happened in Australia for 3 years now. So hopefully it's all good to go ahead. Hopefully I'll be all right to travel, just because we've applied for my green card. So we've just got to make sure that I can get travel authorization from that. But all things going to plan in that regard. We'll be in Australia for that period for the World Cross trial, and then World Cross if everything goes well. And then we'll look to a 2023 season, which I think we'll have a better idea of after Chicago. So yeah.
All right, we got a couple of closing questions. We're asking the other Chicago marathon racers as well. So what do you think the winning time is going to be at Chicago for both men and women?
Or winning time for men, I reckon 2:05 something. I don't think it's going to be ridiculously quick, but 2:0. I reckon 2:0. Do I have to go to the second? Yeah, I shouldn't I? Let's say 2:05:33.
Okay.
For the men, and then for the women, is Cosguy still in it, or did I see she pulled out?
I think she pulled out. I'm 90% sure she pulled out.
Okay. What was Berlin running? 2:15.
Yeah, 2:15.
Let's go with I'm going to say 2:15:41 for the women.
Okay.
After having zero knowledge of the start list, I'm confidently going to say 2:15:41.
Hey, someone on that list can probably run a 2:15 on the right day. So, I mean, why not?
Mate, after Berlin, anybody can run 2:15, so as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Those are relatively safe bets. 2:05. It's like, one of those guys is going to run a 2:05. And then on the women's side, someone's going to bust out a 2:15, 2:16, probably somewhere in there. So pretty safe bet, I'd say. Adam, do you want to ask one of the trivia questions to close it out?
All right, let's pick a good one for this.
We've got some random Chicago Marathon trivia questions, basically, that you would not be expected to know at all, but we're just going to see if you can guesstimate an answer on it.
Okay.
All right, Pat, how many bananas do you think they provide to runners?
That's a good question. This is like one of those interview questions. How many windows are in New York City or something?
Yeah, we got to hear the logic to get to the answer and see what your problem-solving skills are.
All right, bananas provided by Chicago Marathon. I'm going to guess there's around 50,000 participants. Bananas, you'd want to provide for an entire marathon maybe I'm going to guess 250,000 bananas.
You were close with using the amount of participants. It's 75K bananas.
75K bananas. Yeah, it's about 40,000 participants. So it's about like 2 bananas a person, basically.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Jeez, you wouldn't want to have low potassium levels going into that. 2 bananas.
Yeah, I'm more of like a 5 bananas here in the marathon guy, so they're cheating me.
75K. That's a lot of bananas.
All right. Next one. How many porta potties do you think are used in the race?
75,000.
I mean, that's what it should be.
That's what they need. So there's no lines.
Is this including off course?
This is start finish line plus along the course.
Okay. I guess maybe 150.
Ooh, add a 0 to that. It's 1,500 porta potties.
Wow. There would be some very unhappy people at the marathon I'd organise. Oh, God, street crew would have to be on overtime. But
well, you spent all the porta potty money on getting everybody bananas.
The $250,000 bananas.
Not the method that makes sense. Give them more food and provide less bathrooms. God. All right, 1,500. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I would do last one. How many days do you think are typically required to set up? And this is from when they start like putting people on the ground, not including like all the other logistic planning, because that's like pretty much year round.
Yeah. 25 days.
That's pretty close. It's 16. And they've already, I think Chris mentioned he saw them around the other day. So
yeah, driving through downtown yesterday, they had the blue line painted for the shortest route. They had all the porta potties lined up by the start area already. Almost 2 weeks out. So they're already putting up all the structures and everything. Getting serious at this point.
There you go. 16 days out. What are they? 100 porta potties a day.
I didn't even think about that. That's
actually a lot of trucks of porta potties every day. That's a good point.
That's a lot of trucks. That's it. Yeah, that'll be our metrics now. How many bananas and how many porta potties to set up a day?
Oh man!
I just got told actually they've got Goose Island IPA waiting for all finishes at the end.
Oh yeah,
they do. They do. They don't skimp out and only do the Michelob Ultra like a lot of races. They have a couple of Goose Island options too.
Chicago are sweet. Yeah.
Hopefully your stomach isn't wrecked. I think the last 2 times I did Chicago, I was looking forward to the Goose Island at the end, and both times my stomach was so fucked up by the end that I was mate. I don't even want a beer, man. Like, give me a few hours. I'm not even ready.
Mate, I think just the smell of that tent will make me throw up. So I'll be waiting a couple of hours for that one.
That's right.
No, they were telling me, they were like, I think there's 350 entrants from Australia besides yourself in the Chicago Marathon. And I was like, well, if there's beer on offer at the end, 350 of those participants will finish that race. I promise you that. They will get there.
Whatever motivation that you need to get to the finish line, use what you can get.
Yeah. But,
Awesome, Pat. Great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on. We'll be out there on the course cheering you on, hoping for a big debut, man. We're excited to see how it goes.
Beauty. Thanks, fellas. Looking forward to it. Hope it's a good weekend for the two of you as well. And
awesome.
Maybe we'll be able to link up for a beer afterwards.
Would love to. We'll be hanging around after, so we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. Cheers. See you later.
All right, fellas.
Thanks,
take it
Pat.
easy.
And there you have it. Thanks for tuning in to this conversation, y'all. If you want to support the show, you can take 2 seconds and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. You can also hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Beer Mile Media. We also put the podcast out there. And then, of course, you can support us by supporting our sponsors. You can use our code BeerMile20, that's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com to get award-winning NA craft beers delivered right to your door. You can also use code BeerMile, all one word, at Manscaped.com for all of your male grooming, hygiene, and confidence needs. And lastly, but not least, you can get the best sunglasses in the game at knockaround.com. Use our code BeerMilePod, all one word, for 20% off. Thank you for the support. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.